Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the RockCast, the podcast made by Rockhurst University students for Rockhurst University students and anyone who's interested in life at Rockhurst. So the class of 2021 has had their moment in the sun quite literally. A commencement was held almost a month ago now at Children's Mercy Park, home of Sporting KC, MLS Soccer. We'll talk with our two seniors here about how their days went and how their weekends, their party weekends went back then. See just kind of what all the culmination of their work at Rockhurst came to the celebration point, and how was that? And now how does it feel now? Also, we're approaching the middle of summer break already, which means different things to different students. Some are working, some are still taking classes, some are in study programs in other countries. We'll discuss what summer is like for incoming students and current students and now new alumni. Summer obviously becomes before the fall semester, and an announcement went out recently from the university saying vaccinations will be required of students to come back in, and the reason being for safety of others. And we'll get into that a little bit. There is an exemption that can be applied for due to medical, religious, or personal reasons. So we'll discuss that. And finally, in this week's I Wish I Knew segment, we'll talk about how to prepare for a school year. So is there anything that students can do going into the fall semester, if it's their first fall semester or their last fall semester? What can they do to make it easier on themselves? But first, let's introduce our RockCast for today. Tell us the usual: name, major, where you're from, or I guess name what you graduated with and where you're from, and then answer this question. We're in the season of summer jobs. So what was your first job ever and how'd it go?
Hello, everyone. I'm Jared Payton II. I am, well, now a junior. Crazy. A junior from Chicago, which is where I'm at right now. Major in marketing, minor in film acting. And I do have a few summer jobs right now. But my first job that I ever had was as a caddy at a country club, which is pretty much just tending to the needs of golfers. I've actually been a caddy for 6 years. And it's not even the idea about it being good money. It's just really good to talk to members, get to be around the game of golf. Actually, I've never played golf before. I'm not that good, but I do like being around the game myself.
My name is America. I am I guess now a recent college graduate. I graduated with a BSBA and a concentration in corporate accounting and finance. I'm from Shawnee, Kansas, and my first job was with my dad. So it really has been my only first and only job, just working with him at the restaurant.
My name is Vince Rusketta. I am a recent graduate and now alumni of Rockhurst University, graduated with my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. Resident coffee addict of the RockCast. You guys are gonna have to find someone to replace me with that. But my first summer job, I was a youth sports coach for my local YMCA. I taught little kids how to play football, basketball, soccer, and baseball, mainly for ages 3 to 4. So that was a ton of fun, introducing kids to the sport.
Awesome. Well, thanks all. I am your host, Chad Schnarr. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the RockCast on whatever podcast client you use. Comment, rate, review, all that good stuff. And if you want to watch a Zoomcast of this episode, you can find us at youtube.com/RockersTalk. If you have any questions or topic ideas, send us a DM on Instagram at Rockhurst University or contact us through rockhurst.edu. So here we go. Our last episode was right before commencement. And America and Vince, we've been talking the last few months about what it's going to be like. It's finally coming to an end. How does it feel? All that stuff. And you've been talking before we all hit record here on this. It was just, how does it feel? So there's the question. How does it feel to be a college graduate?
It feels, just to kick us off here, yeah, it feels really great. college is a great time. It's a fun time, but it's also just 4 years of straight grinding toward your career. And that's what we're all here for, right? That's what it is at the 4 years, and that's what we celebrated at graduation a few weeks ago. It was a big relief to, finally have that recognition for 4 years of blood, sweat, and tears that we all have put into our degrees. And it was really cool to be able to actually honor everybody in person when we were all expecting, 6 months ago that it wasn't going to happen. For me personally, though, I thought it was really fun because the first college to go up was Research College of Nursing. And I was like right at the front of the line. I think I was one of the first 10 names called, which is totally not normal for my life. With my last name starting with R, I'm usually at the back half of everything. America feels me on that one. And so being one of the first people to be called when everybody was like paying attention right at the front of the start, it just felt really cool to be able to walk the stage, give Father Curran a little elbow tap. And then, but yeah, for nursing majors though, it does feel kind of weird because one, we are celebrating, but two, just because you graduate with a nursing degree in America, it actually doesn't mean anything. Your real graduation comes once you pass your boards, which is the NCLEX, which is our national examination for nursing majors. So still studying for that. I'll be taking that in July. So once that's all done and passed, that's when I can really start celebrating graduation.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with everything that Ben said. It was really fun and it kind of surreal in a way, just because I feel like graduation has been like the ongoing topic in nearly every episode. And it kind of looking back how we would talk about if there's one thing that we could have, it would be a commencement, and we got it. And now it's over, which is weird that we talked about it for so long and it happened, and it's been almost a month. But it was so fun. And I think it was such a nice day as well. There was a point where I felt like it was going to rain, like it was about to rain, and then it didn't. So that was good. But other than that, the day was really nice, and it was just so fun to be with like all my classmates. And we got to sit with whoever we wanted, which was kind of cool that we could just sit with our friends. So the whole time, especially since it was so long, it did feel a little bit long towards the end. So we could chat with our friends. But yeah, it was fun. And then the hawk walk, obviously it was very different than it normally would be, but I still think that they tried to make it as like special as they could. And it was really cool when we got to walk, and then like all our parents were like waiting, taking pictures. But yeah, it was really fun. It still hasn't hit me that graduation happened. But we'll see. I mean, I think in a couple months I'm going to be like, what? I'm graduated. Like I don't have to go back to school. But yeah, I guess that's all I have to say.
Awesome. And Jared, did you watch the live stream, or would you?
Don't blame me if you didn't.
Honestly, like so I wanted to actually, just because, it's like, when you go to Rockhurst, love the community. There's quite a few people I would love to see, but I was like, you know what? Let me just see it when I graduate. So I didn't feel like, I'm like, expecting anything, because graduation of any sort, for me is kind of just like an in the moment, surreal type of thing for me. It's like you have no idea what it's like, and then you do it, and it's like, wow. So I guess I just didn't want to be spoiled for me, because everybody, I saw the pictures afterwards. I'm like, man, everyone's so happy. Like I was just really glad to see, you guys be able to celebrate that accomplishment as you needed to. But I just didn't want to spoil that for myself.
I mean, and basically the majority of it is them just like saying names, and you would be bored. Like at the end, we were all like, "Give this, come on."
That's why they let you sit with your friends. Like
that was done.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would have done. I mean, I guess like even there's still like a lot of people I didn't really know, because I guess St. Luke's students were there as well. Which that was that was really cool. That's why it was so long as well. So there were a lot of people I didn't know, since they are from the West Park campus.
Right.
They were there.
And actually, that was a really funny thing. Is all of the nursing students' parents, they were all so confused. They're like, "Wait, what's the other nursing? There's another nursing school graduating?" Because like usually they kept it split between research. You heard all the nursing majors there, And then St. Luke's, those nursing majors, they graduated with the rest of the school with the Bachelor's of Arts, I think.
Bachelor, it wasn't the worst.
Yeah,
Theirs was like Bachelor of Nursing, and yours guys were like science or something.
Right. And then all of us were kind of looking around like, wait a minute, we don't know you. Oh, St. Luke's, okay. Hey, but next year, that's the only nursing school that's going to be called. So,
Not
actually,
next year though.
one more, and then two years, actually, 2 years from now.
So mine when I graduate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So that'd be really cool. But no, Jared, I can respect you trying to have like, just try to keep that like pure and like keep it surreal for yourself, because especially when you do like the hawk walk, I think it's just, I don't know, it was not anything that I was expecting. Like I didn't know what it was gonna look like, and it was so cool to actually experience that in the moment. And I feel like that's something a lot of like us as a society today need to be able to be more okay with, just be able to experience stuff in the moment rather than like having expectations for literally everything in our life. So
I think it's I think that especially helped with like us, where it's like if you, and I guess your graduation honestly is going to be very different than ours. Just to start off, hopefully no more COVID, obviously.
Yeah.
Or another pandemic. That would not be good.
Yeah, but honestly, like COVID, like forced the circumstances that we had to move our traditional graduation venue from municipal to sporting. And I thought graduating at sporting was really freaking cool because you get to go step onto the field where the stage was, and
dope. Yeah.
Because you were surrounded. It's a stadium, so you were surrounded by the few thousand people who were there watching, and so I felt like that was just like a really cool experience and really unique. Because really this year's graduates are the only ones who got to experience that of any Rockhurst graduate in the last 102 years, right? So I feel like that was really unique for us.
It is. Where municipal, where is that, by the way?
It's downtown.
Because I was gonna say what happened, but you will know.
Yeah.
You know where the Marriott is that lights up? It'll have like Chief stuff go across it and Royal stuff go across it, and they'll do American flags and stuff like that. Have you ever seen that downtown? Okay,
I feel like
it's right across from that. Commencement will be there next year, in 2022. 2023, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it all goes.
Really cool.
Yeah, it was weird. I didn't know if I was gonna like it, but I really did like being at the stadium. It was really cool, actually.
If you saw, because we could submit, a really cool part about it was you could submit pictures to like the alumni committee at Rockhurst, and they put a slideshow up about with all the graduates if you send in pictures, and it was really cool, just like seeing you and your friends like up on a giant jumbo screen for a professional sports stadium. And plus all the marketing videos that you guys all record. I thought those were really, really cool.
Outstanding senior stuff.
Interviews that were played. I love that.
That was dope.
Did you guys have any big celebrations, parties, vacations right afterward?
Yeah, my family did. So my baby sister, shout out Valerie, she graduated from high school this year as well. And so my parents kind of did like a combo trip between the two of us since we were both graduating. We went to Cancun for a few days, then Playa del Carmen for a few days. And that was just really nice to just get away from everything and just chill out on a beach, honestly. I was still studying for my NCLEX down there just because my study schedule needed me to, but it's a lot easier when your feet are in the sand than when you're just sitting here at your desk in Kansas City. So it was a ton of fun. I got 4 shades tanner, which was my goal for going down there. So
do you mind telling us about the podcast experience down there?
Oh my God, yeah. So we were staying at this resort in Cancun. I was sitting at the beachside bar with an afternoon iced coffee and my NCLEX book, just reading up. And someone kind of just walks by and they go, "Oh, you studying for something?" Like, "Oh yeah, I just graduated. I'm studying for my boards." He goes, "Oh, where'd you graduate from?" I go, "Rockhurst University." I met this guy. I already freaking forgot his name. It was like Jeff. I didn't catch his last name, but he was a Rockhurst graduate from the 80s. And I started talking to him about it, and he goes, "Your voice sounds familiar." I'm like, "Do you listen to the podcast?" He's like, "Yeah, and I love it." And I'm like, "Let's go."
Wow.
That is so cool. The fact that that happened
You're
there.
an alumni listening to this.
So dope.
You guys, we love you. This is why we make this stuff. So
Wow.
Already meeting fans.
That's so cool.
I know,
Really?
I'm like, I've never felt like this before. No one knows who I am.
I'm more so just kind of almost honored that they are like alumni that like listen to this, and especially when it's been so like it's been like several years since they graduated, that they're still like, I feel like that just really shows like the Rockers community, like they still care to like know what's going on with our events, because a lot of things we talk about are just like events on campus, and I'm sure like some of those things aren't like exactly like relevant always to them,
Yeah.
which I think it's so cool that they listen to them. That's awesome.
No, literally, you have a really good point. That definitely tells you so much. I think about, I mean, we're all pretty well-spoken individuals, but I think the biggest part about this, the reach and like the impact that we can have. And I feel like, that conversation that you had with Jeff, if that was his name, Vince, shout out Jeff, hope you're listening, is that, I mean, that's just great. Like how many other people are there out there like that we haven't heard from yet, that we might just walk into and just be like, oh yeah, like, that's just so cool. Wow. Small world.
That's so funny that he recognized your voice. I guess you do have a very distinct, what's the word?
Distinct, yeah.
Distinct voice.
Vince sent me an email about it, so I forwarded it to my boss. I'm like, hey, we're huge in Mexico. America, what kind of celebrations, parties did you guys
Not
do?
too much right now. No, I want to have we're currently remodeling my house, so it's been kind of crazy. We've been wanting to have like a graduation party, but I will be going to Mexico the 30th. So I'll be going there. I'll be there for a month, and then actually, in a couple of weeks, I'll be visiting my roommate Emma Martinez in Colorado, which I'm very excited about, with a couple of friends. She was the undergraduate speaker as well, which she did amazing. So yeah, haven't done anything yet, just been working, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks I'll get to celebrate.
Speaking of working, as we mentioned in the opening, summer's nearing halfway. Summer can mean a lot of different things, different students. Some will go through extended programs like the MOT, the DOT, the PT programs. They'll go all the way through the summer to get that 5-year doctorate or master's degree with the undergrad done. Some will study abroad. Many obviously go home and work or stay in town and work. What's a typical summer like for a college student, and kind of where are you at right now?
So this summer is definitely a lot different for any summer that I've usually had. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a caddy at a country club. I've done that for 6 years. So that is always something that I usually done. I've done that since I was 13. And I've always done that every summer. And before this year, I never actually had a real job, because technically you don't really classify caddying as a real job, because it's all tips actually. Golfers, they pay you in straight cash at the end of every round that they have. It's about 4 to 5 hours on the course, typically. So I've been doing that. I've been working at an Italian restaurant called Francesca's, a few minutes north of where I live at now, since New Year's Eve. I've been there, so I do that still. I have an internship with a group based in Kansas City called the Brand Lab that I actually got through Black Student Union, which is a really nice connection there. That starts next week, so that's been really good. And then I also, I don't even really consider this a job. It just pays. And I'm a film acting minor, and so I heard from some people that I connected with up here about an acting gig for a show, for like a recurring role. And I submitted an audition and I got the role, and that starts this weekend. So that's, in a way, it's a commitment, because now I got to memorize lines and do all that stuff. So it kind of is a job in a way, but at the same time, everything that, I guess, in the ways that I'm working this summer, I love what I'm doing. So it doesn't really feel like I'm truly working. I really enjoy what I'm doing. And if it pays, it pays too. So, yeah.
America, do you have some sound effects to offer here?
Yes,
Or
sorry. It was my dog. He's playing with his toy.
That's what I thought. I heard you.
I tried to get him to leave, but I think he did. Yeah. So
just a random honk? No,
yeah.
no worries. America, you said you're working at the restaurant right now,
Yeah.
or?
Yeah, I am working. Now I'm taking on like more responsibilities. So more like paperwork stuff. So it's been kind of fun just doing other things. So a lot of the things I can actually do from home. And then I've also just been going more during the week. So it keeps me busy just because I was so used to at school, like having like meeting after meeting and meeting after meeting, and then class and then homework. So now I do feel like I have like a lot more time, ironically. So I'm kind of like trying to figure out what to do with all this time and keep busy. So yeah, that's what I've been doing right now. I want to, I've been meaning to like keep studying for the LSAT, but I mean, just with this weather, sometimes it's hard to study. So I admire you, Vince, but I guess you really have to do it.
That's a choice coming up in 3 weeks. No, on that note, I am working as a nurse intern too at Menorah Medical Center's ICU. That's going to be the unit that I will be transitioning to as a nurse. So being able to work in the unit that I will be working in that intern role has been really beneficial and just helping me transition from being a nursing student to a practicing RN, which will hopefully happen once I take the NCLEX in July. So I've been doing that. I do that part-time, and part-time for hospital is 2 12-hour shifts a week. And then the rest of my time during the week, I'm pretty much on the grind, studying for that NCLEX, basically just cramming all of nursing school into about the space of a month before I go in and take that exam. But I don't know, with that job, it's just so conducive to my career. Like I recommend that every nursing major go out and go either get your certified nurse's aide certification, or once you pass your fundamentals course in your first semester of nursing school, you'll also be qualified to have that certification as well without going through school, because that kind of just covers the education there. If you can get a job as a tech, CNA, or nurse intern, they're all kind of the same position, just different names in the hospital. No matter what healthcare system you in, you're going to really appreciate it, because there is a really tough learning curve to working in a hospital, just a fast-paced environment, and actually applying the stuff that you learn in school. And that'll just help you with that transition as you become a nurse. So highly recommend. But yeah, studying for the NCLEX has been a grind. I have like this letterboard over here. I know we really talked about J. Cole a ton last podcast, but my motivation, I think it's backwards on the camera here. It says the off season, let's work. Shouting out his last. Yeah, thank you, Dreamville. Jay, if you're a fan of J. Cole, you can feel me in here right now. You know exactly what we're talking about here. And so that's just kind of like my motivation to just pick myself up and start grinding toward all my goals. So yeah.
What are some summer jobs that some of your friends have had during college, some of the more unique ones, popular ones, nannying, things like that? What are some of the stuff you've heard going on that people do?
I've heard a lot of dog sitting, a lot, which is weird. I mean, I've heard every once in a while somebody, oh, I dog sit. I've heard a lot of people that I know this summer say that they dog sit. I'm like, did COVID just, I don't know. Like pretty much like my friend, she gets paid to, well, watch the dog. Maybe parents will be like, they'll literally pretty much pay her to live in their house with the dog for a day or so, which is really good money. So
a lot of guys, there's just some like odd jobs you only think of. There's a good segment of guys at Rockhurst who works for this moving company called Bellhops. And they're just a moving company here in Kansas City. So very physically demanding, but they say it pays really well. Some of my old roommates, they do like power washing, in the area for this power washing company. And then there's a good contingent of Rockhurst students who valet as valets on Country Club Plaza.
Yeah.
One, really easy. Two, makes a ton of money because of just the clientele that frequent the Country Club Plaza. And three, you get to drive cars that probably cost more than your parents' house. So that's why
They all become friends with the customers.
yes, you get to network with all these these billionaires that in the Kansas City area.
Yup. Get those business cards. Get them.
One
Hey, so-
random one that I've heard is I think that's what it was. He worked in like a jelly factory. His name is Brian Callahan. I'm sure maybe you know him, Vince, but he had like a bunch of random jobs that he did, and one of them was like a jelly factory, which I thought was so cool. Way cooler than anything I've heard anyone else say, like that I know of. So I don't know what you would do there, but it sounds like a really cool job.
But that's like the advantage of going to a college in the city, right? Because one, you get like the city economy too. So there's just so many different types of jobs that like aren't available if you live in just a college town. And right now, I feel like the service industry, especially, is really hurting to find employees. So they're looking for people right now. So,
Jared, what do you do at the Italian restaurant?
So at Francesca's where I work at, I am a food runner and a busser. Food runner, I bring the food out to guests. That's pretty much my main job. Food, desserts, anything that's prepped by the chefs, I'm pretty much running out, hence food runner, and making to-go orders. And I'm also a bus boy, which is literally busting tables, taking down, plates and whatnot. Yeah, it's actually a really good thing it kind of works with valet as far as, connecting with people. When you're bussing and taking plates off of tables, you have a lot more time to, interact with the customers, which I really like. I'd say being at home, pretty much all my sophomore year, I really valued the little connection that I did have, and at work was definitely a big one. Just getting to just talk to people. You never really appreciate how much it is to see, a family come in and just, ask you a question about where you go to school and just talk to them, and see them smile. Like the little things started to matter to me working at a job like that. But if there's anybody that's looking for a job like that, consider the fact that they are typically very flexible. Like my job, we have an online app, and you go in, you put in your availability, you can put it in before it's scheduled. So it's really efficient with what you're doing. And how it works, because a lot of people get confused with the pay aspect. They pay you actually I think it's about $6 actually, but you make so much in tips that it covers way above minimum wage. So they pay you $6 per hour flat, and everything else based off of the tips that you make for the night. So if it's a busy night, you're going to make a lot of money. But if it's not busy, probably not. But yeah, it's the restaurant business, especially Italian restaurant business, is definitely a very intricate one. There's a lot of things that they have that you're not going to really see other places do. Every once in a while, I'll have people, they're not supposed to do this, but guests will just be like, hey, this is off the record. And they'll give you a 20, and they'll give you a few fives, and they'll give you money. You put in your apron, no one saw it. It was so funny. This one time, this guy, he literally put it in my apron, and he was like, no one saw that. And so I've just been doing it ever since. It's really funny sometimes how creative customers can be with tipping. But actually, we don't pull tips. So pretty much I make my money if I'm a busser. It comes directly from the server. And if you're a food runner, it comes from that too. So it goes runners make the least amount of money, still get good money, then the busters, and then the servers. And the bartender, they do their own little thing.
Have you guys heard of any jobs? I don't know if Jelly Factory figures into this, but jobs you've heard people have that it's just awful. No way you would want to do this.
What does this make me think of? I'm gonna have to think about it. I definitely know a few.
If we were to go into the vein of jobs that people thought that were gonna be nice or sounded great until they actually worked them, I just know that there's a lot of people, especially between Rockhurst and UMKC, who go to work to be security at different bars around Kansas City, particularly around Westport. They pay really high, but the problem is what I've heard is like the hours suck because you're there till 3 or 4 a.m. and on the weekends too. So there goes your social life as well. So it's not really worth like the 20 or so dollars an hour they're willing to offer to a college student, which sounds great. You know, when you
Sounds
first
so
hear,
good.
like, oh, $20, like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna think about it. And then you're there till 4 or 5 a.m. You don't get to hang out with any of your friends and all of that. So that, at least that's what I've heard.
You have to clean a bar.
Yeah.
That sounds horrifying.
I never went into that because I'm like 5'7" on a good day and couldn't intimidate a fly. But also for those reasons, I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, I think just maybe in the service industry, I think a lot of people, if you've never worked maybe like at a restaurant or anything like that, you don't understand like what goes through. That's why like I feel like so many people when they go to restaurants, they just have no idea how things work, or like they get mad at people that have nothing to do with the problem that you just experienced, or like we see those every day. So I think that it would just be nice if honestly if everyone could work at a restaurant like for a little bit. I feel like everyone
That's
would be
for a
so
little
much
bit.
nicer.
Yeah, no, yeah, like I can definitely, piggyback off of what you were just talking about, America. It's kind of taught me a lot about like, because I'm a busser, so I come and take plates off the tables. I bring out appetizers, and just it can sometimes be just really just not it. Because sometimes, and every once in a while, we'll have corporate, which are the people. My restaurant's a food chain. I'm all throughout Chicago. And sometimes, corporate comes in, that's when the manager gets all hectic. He starts getting really scared, and he's like, okay, everybody, please take that chain off. he just starts getting really, really, really self-conscious when the corporate's there. And one thing that corporate trips over is stacking plates. So it's really nice when I have, people, and I definitely learned this from being a busser, just how much it is when you go out to a restaurant, just stacking those plates on the table and giving them to them. Because other than that, they're gonna have to go around and like take each one. And I've seen so many people drop plates. I heard a story about somebody dropping a whole plate of food on a girl right before she went to prom, which sounds like the worst thing possible, literally. But yeah, that actually happened. I was like, wow, like crazy. But yeah,
Oh, man.
But
it's
I have to agree that on the plates thing, this is like a random. This happened to me
let's hear it.
a while ago. I was picking up a plate. I usually don't pick a plate since I'm just usually in the front, but I was picking up a plate, and they were all like scattered through like the table, and I'm like
Yeah.
trying to grab the plate, and then once I get it off, like the girl sitting there, she's like she was like this when I was like behind her, and she was like, you almost hit me. I was about to let you hit me just so you could see. And I was like, why couldn't you just been like, oh, you're like, oh, wait a second, like she was like, yeah, I was about to let you hit me just so you could see that you weren't doing it right. I was like, girl, why would you? Okay.
What
Just
type
like
of
the most
logic?
random things. I was like, you could have just told me, like, can't you clearly can speak.
She had the audacity. That's
Just
crazy.
yeah, but there's also like people that are that's the thing. Sometimes those are sometimes only a handful of people, but you also get to meet so many awesome people and great customers who are super understanding. Like you could drop like their whole food and they'd be like, it's fine. So I mean, this shouldn't be happening, but there are also people that are just really, really sweet. So
True. No, I definitely say so. And I think when you work at a restaurant, it definitely humbles you a little bit, just because you see those things a lot. You see really, have people that are willing to, help you out. And then you also get the really like just microaggressive people that don't want to be bothered by you at all. And it's kind of like, it can change your entire mood for the day. So sometimes I do this thing before I go to work where, I just like take a little break. Because obviously, anybody, we work because, we're trying to get paid. But I do think it's also important that when you're working, just to also make sure that, your mental is in line with whatever you're doing. I might just find a few minutes, just take it off. I'm just like, okay, like, I'm good. I want to be here. I know what I'm doing, just so that way I don't feel all stressed out or upset, if somebody, not even if they make a comment, just like the way sometimes people will look at you sometimes, it'll get to you, and you've worked in a restaurant, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's hard to explain, but you definitely want to find a balance between, while you're working and making sure that you feel good while you're there too.
America, I completely agree with your statement about everyone should work in a restaurant just for a little bit so they can see what it's like. My wife and I swore that we would have our kids work in the service industry somehow on their way up, just so they'd know how to treat people or how not to treat people. And they're both doing that right now. So hopefully that lesson comes around, because everyone's got horror stories, but everyone's got good stories too. I met, was waiting tables in Nashville and met one of the children of Martin Luther King Jr. So
what?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
So just one of those moments where like, oh my goodness. And like, you can't really ask for autographs or anything like that, but just like, wow. It's just like those wow moments. So it was really neat. But yeah, so anyway, there's a lot of students right now that just graduated high school. You guys are in a much different position. They just graduated high school. They're getting ready to come to Rockhurst in the fall. They're probably pretty nervous, or maybe they're excited. Do you remember the summer before your freshman year, kind of what that was like and what your mindset was going into the fall?
Excited but nervous. Just because like I was really excited to be able to live on my own. I lived on campus my first 2 years, and I was just really excited to go. It was kind of nice too, because there were a few people like America from my high school who were going to Rockhurst as well. So I'm just like, all right, if I completely like bomb my introductions to new people, I have friends here. It'll be okay. But I don't know, the nervous aspect for it too is kind of from the same vein. Like, yeah, I'm gonna be living on my own. I'm gonna have to make decisions, for myself for once. And so that anticipation of making that leap for yourself, kind of just like as a person, just like moving through the stages of life, I think that was just like really huge. Just people to just jump into that rabbit's hole that first semester and really start living life like just by yourself and making those decisions for yourself away from your parents. So I thought that was really cool.
I mean, yeah, I felt the same. I felt excited to meet new people. And I think maybe just like one advice that I think it's so basic and everyone says it, but I think it's very important, is just to talk to everyone and not be like afraid to be who you are. It sounds so cheesy, but like at the beginning, I feel like there's not always like moments in your life where you're new at something and then everyone around you is also new, because once you start a job, like people already have like friendships or and really just or like, I don't know, you get married and you join someone's family, like they obviously already have these connections to each other. But like when you're starting like as a freshman in a new school, like no one knows like each other. And like obviously there are people who maybe went to the same high school. But other than that, everyone's trying to meet new friends. So no one really knows anything about you. Everyone feels nervous. And they want you to like them as well. Just like you want them to just like you want friends, they want to make friends as well. So if anything, something that I wish I would have done starting off that fall semester is just I really, really talk to everyone that I wanted to talk to, because there's a lot of people that I met afterwards, that I got to know afterwards and maybe years later, that now I'm like, wow, I really wish I would have talked to you before. And maybe I had that opportunity then at the beginning of the fall semester, but I think I was too nervous and a little bit self-conscious of like, are they going to like me? And then the thing is that they felt exactly the same. So just come in feeling confident. And I think I know Rockhurst is a very like welcoming community. So it'll be all right. Just to kind of sum it up that way.
I think, I feel like I've maybe mentioned this before. The only way I might have been a little nervous coming into school as a freshman, I knew I was gonna love Rockhurst. At least that was what I told myself when I made the decision to come here anyways. But definitely not knowing anybody at Rockhurst was a really big thing for me. I'm like, I don't know anybody here. Even though what ended up happening was, and this is a funny story that I might have also mentioned before, when I went to ride on Ride to the Rock, which is, many people from, St. Louis and Omaha, they have those 2 trips to campus. You spend the night. I met this kid named Joey. Went to an all-boys school in St. Louis called the SMET, which we're all familiar with now, but I wasn't. And I went to an all-boys school in Chicago, so we had a connection there. Became really cool, connected. I was gonna go to Rockhurst. He was gonna go to SEMO. He called me at some point in June, says he doesn't want to go there, says he wants to go to Rockhurst. I connect him with his admissions counselor. He ends up coming. But besides that, I didn't know anybody at Rockhurst. And I feel like up until the few days before I got there, I was a little nervous about that, because I was like, oh my gosh, like, how do I approach people? And I guess we've all been in positions before where we don't know somebody, like technically every friend or every person that you know in your life, you had to interact with them for the first time at some point, to be technical, right? So I tried to look at it that way, but then it was just like, well, this is college, So I guess just knowing that this was a new time for me was what made it nervous, not the idea of having to be around new people, making friends. I didn't believe I could do that, but actually doing it, committing myself to do things the right way. But it's just a little overwhelming. I do think that Rockhurst has such an intentional community that it was really not that hard once I got there. Like I was able to blossom before, to be completely honest, I feel like I had a few solid friends before my first classes even started, just from orientation weekend. Been in like the hottest of places too. It was so cool. But yeah, regardless of it, I mean, just as you said earlier, and yeah, some people will say it's cheesy America, but I mean, at the end of the day, you do have to be true to who you are. Don't feel like you have to put up a front for anybody just so you can have friends. And that's probably not something that you'll set out to do, but it's something that you'll do subconsciously if you don't think about it. It's important to just be intentional, involve your morals too. Don't just be friends with people just because they're fun. Because at some point the rubber meets the road. You're gonna want to be around solid people that, want the best for you as you might want the best for them. But that's anywhere in life. I feel like if it's anything that I've learned from being a freshman and, that slight sense of anxiety that I might have had, is that is something that I'm gonna see, when I get my first job, when I start, going and, maybe running conferences when I'm like an adult, running full things. Like this is never something that will stop to cease. You're always gonna meet new people. So think of it like that. It's a good way to just branch out, because that's what life is all about at the end of the day.
Very good advice. That kind of relates to our I wish I knew segment. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. So I wish I knew how to prepare for the fall semester in this way.
I think something that I wish I would have done more was talk to my academic advisor, just about the classes that I wanted to take and maybe what my interests were, because I feel like if there's anything that I would maybe regret is like not looking at more like majors and like or having like a minor in something else, just because I wasn't really sure like what that would entail, and I kind of didn't talk to my advisor as much as I could have, even though I think I did a good job of when I had doubts like going to him. I still think that I could have done more, because I feel like there were a lot of like other subjects that I found a lot of interest in that I definitely could have fit in my schedule. So if maybe I would have known that at the beginning, maybe my freshman, sophomore year, I wouldn't have been like regretting that, like maybe towards my senior year, like, oh darn, like I wish I would have talked to him more, or maybe those classes that I was interested in, maybe going to those professors and being like, hey, like I really like this subject. Is there like, what are the requirements for getting like a major or a minor in this? Because once you're starting off, you just have so much time, and it's way easier to fit extra classes into your schedule than it would be your junior and senior year. So, I mean, it's kind of vague, but I mean, it also depends when you find your interest in something, but maybe just if you find anything sort of interesting, just talking to that professor and being like, hey, what would a minor in this look like?
No, I think definitely getting a set plan before the fall semester, especially if you're a returning student, I feel like that's really big. just kind of seeing like how this prerequisite class will impact your career. That's a connection I never really made in during my prerequisite era in nursing school. Just like taking anatomy, I'm like, okay, yeah, I have to do this. Like again, I kind of have to know, but I would have studied a lot harder if I realized how much like my prerequisite courses to my major courses really tied in to my future career. So I think that's definitely a change I think I would make. I think a good way to do that is, especially if you're a actually new student and they hand you that sheet that lays out your entire program for the next 4 years, you can kind of use that as a tool to see like, okay, I need to fulfill like this history 1 credit or a global perspective credit. What electives or what classes could I take in that will be a little more geared to my career that will help me there in the future. So for example, when I came to college, I had an intention of being a double major in nursing and Spanish. Didn't really pan out, but if I were to continue on that course, I wish I would have taken the Spanish healthcare class where they go over like specific terms and phrases used in Spanish, specifically used for the hospital. Because now I know a little bit of Spanish just to, survive just a little bit. But absolutely, I have zero vocabulary for healthcare. And I've actually ran into a few situations where I've had purely Spanish-speaking patients before. And I'm like, I know a little bit of Spanish, but like not in this arena. So that's just one example.
I would say definitely, I think I've definitely realized it this summer, for sure. So I can definitely talk about it as I feel like I'm currently going through it. But keeping yourself busy during the summer, in whatever way that may be, it doesn't exactly mean having a job. Or making money. Let's say you have a craft that you like to work on. Like for me, I'm a poet, and I haven't done this before, but I've been going to a lot of open mics with a few of my friends who are also artists from high school around the Chicago area, which is really, really, really cool. Just because it lets me know not just where I'm at as an artist, but it's really cool to see other people do their own stuff too. It keeps my brain going, keeps me motivated. That's one thing I've done, I guess you could say, as far as, an artist. Academically, I'd say some people like to read, some people don't. But I think if you at least have a book open or something that you're looking into for the summer, that will definitely help you in a way. It's definitely, like, I don't read every day, but I'm definitely getting to the point where, I'm setting, time aside to make sure that I'm looking into certain things, or like just doing research just to keep my brain going. I say one of the biggest assets anybody can have is just to not have a long period of time in your life where you're not doing anything at all. As I said, don't have to be working. Just need to make sure that your brain is just active. Maybe that might even be working out or going to the park every day, to go kick it, play basketball, play sand volleyball with friends. It might even be that. Just staying active in some way, just to make sure that you're not losing sense of who you are. Because there are definitely times I feel like in my life where the summer comes and it's boom, I do nothing, and it's okay to look forward to the summer, especially if you've been working hard all year. You do need some time off. You need a break, go and take that vacation if you can, but don't forget the goal. Keep all that in mind. Just know where you're trying to go. And the best way to work on that in the summer is to just keep yourself working, whatever it is that passionate about. That can be schoolwork, as I said. It can be just whether that be, wanting to keep your body in shape. It can also be, maybe you want to learn how to cook. That's also something I want to do. I haven't done that as much, but I'm trying to. Having a house next year, I definitely want to learn how to cook a lot more. So I'm trying to do this thing. I haven't done it, but maybe like once a week or every 2 weeks, I'm preparing a dish. You can ask a few people at Rockhurst, but I do cook a pretty mean chicken parmesan. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, just finding time. If there's something that you want to do, especially when school comes back, just find time.
So this fall specifically, as we head into that, we're going to be basically back to normal, so to speak. Classrooms, I think, are still going to have masks, potentially if you are not vaccinated. So there's a lot of if, ands, and buts and then involved there. So this past week, they put out an announcement that said students will be required to be vaccinated, but can apply for exemptions due to medical religious, or personal reasons. So we talked a little bit earlier about communities. So I'm going to read a really small portion here of Father Curran, the president, Father Tom Curran, his message to students in the Rockhurst community. So he said, our strong sense of community identifies and unifies us. This was abundantly clear even during these past 15 months. In the midst of the virtual gatherings, we long to be reunited in person. The pandemic has instructed, transformed, and made us stronger, individually and collectively. Now, as we reconvene as a university community, we are being instructed, according to local and national public health experts, that the best way to reconvene in solidarity is protect ourselves and others from the virus and its increasing number of variants through the COVID-19 vaccine. And then he goes on to talk about you can declare one of 3 exemptions, and every student will have to fill out a electronic form. And you guys were talking earlier that, Jared, I think you already filled yours out. You want to kind of talk about what that process was, and then we'll get into kind of what your thoughts are on the announcement itself. So when you go to fill out the form, Jared, what do you see?
Pretty much, I filled it out. I'll say yesterday I filled out the form. Essentially, what it is, guys, is you hit the link. It says like something here. It's in the email that they sent. You just click it, and your name, info, student ID number for incoming freshmen or anybody who doesn't know. Card number, 2 zeros followed by, I want to say, a 6-digit PIN. That should be on your Rockhurst student ID. Something you can also find from a counselor if you need it. But yeah, you put that in, address, all your basic information, nothing else, and then your vaccine dates. If you are already vaccinated, you put in the first day that you got the dose, and the second, unless you got Johnson & Johnson. It gives you the option to put just, 1 for that too. So it pretty much gives you the option to put down your registration for whether you've been vaccinated or not. Select those options, put the dates in. It took me about a minute or so to complete, and yeah, it's pretty much done.
Is this, in your opinion, the best way to remain safe, to remain healthy? And what do you think the discussion is going to be among students?
I think at least with the conversations between students, it's going to continue the national conversation of the multiple different COVID-19 vaccines themselves just applied to should you be forcing people to require it at certain institutions? And I don't know, for speaking from like the healthcare side, I think that there already is kind of a precedent for vaccines. Like there was a bunch of other diseases that we have to be vaccinated for before we come to college, so I think that as a country, we should probably just move to the point where we're like, yeah, we're just going to treat this like it's just one of the other vaccines on a long laundry list of vaccines schools need to require. And they already have exemptions for all those diseases. So I think that by the way we're implementing it, just by treating it just like another disease to be vaccinated for and giving people the option to have those exemptions, I think that's really important because it still leaves some choice for people who are coming in, but also it keeps our community safe by making it a requirement. So I think that's like a good, middle ground there for that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it could be just like the friend group or like the people that I surrounded myself with, but at Rockhurst. But everyone, I guess I never really heard anyone like that I would think would strongly disagree. Or maybe if they were, I guess like they do have those exemptions. And just when we were offered like so many opportunities to get vaccinated last semester, a lot of people that I knew and like even my classmates, I would hear about them, getting vaccinated, and that would just be kind of the talk sometimes right before class started. So I have a feeling, I'm not really sure. I would like to know like maybe numbers. I'm sure the university has a better idea, but I do feel like a lot of students are already vaccinated. And I think maybe a large majority, like I would say more so a good amount in comparison to perhaps other schools, just because it really has been offered to students a lot. And we have gotten, those weekly emails about COVID-19 and just like updates that that were happening around campus. So I don't think there'll be like a huge pushback from students. But that's just my opinion. Maybe someone else could disagree, depending on, like who they surrounded themselves with. But I don't think that it would be as big as perhaps maybe other schools.
I agree there. The one thing that I think Rockhurst has with an advantage of us being a small school, just bare minimum, just being a small school. Then when you add the idea of, what our community is, the things that, we've been able to do as a university, a lot of people miss that, so many people, there's probably even people that might not agree with the idea of being vaccinated that will be on board with it just because, they want to go back to that, and they see that as, maybe like, the safest route possible. And then also I do believe that having, the exemption route for some people, whoever really wants to go that route is important. So I'm glad they're doing that as well. So nobody, can feel and say, oh my gosh, they're forcing us to take the vaccine, because, that's not the case. At the same time, a lot of people, and I would definitely say most people at Rockhurst, are longing for us to be able to do the things that, we used to. Like, for example, one of the first big things that'll be happening is family weekend. I mean, I remember that when I was a freshman. And like, yeah, my family wasn't there, but seeing some of my other friends and their families, and dogs all over the campus was crazy. It was so much fun. A lot of people miss those types of events. I miss, going to the basketball game, and cheering on the team or whatever we were doing in the student section. Those small things, many people miss that. So I'll probably come back for that reason. But I'd say the national scene has definitely played a large role in that. We talked earlier about, a school like Notre Dame. They just recently announced that they're making it mandatory for students to get vaccinated in order to come back. I've seen a number of other schools do the same since then. So definitely wasn't very surprised to see, how Rockhurst was going in that. But I think it'll be well.
Vince, what's the hospital requirement like?
We were really blessed, at least my hospital in particular. We got the first week that the Pfizer vaccine was available, we were vaccinating hospital staff already. It's kind of the same thing with kind of how the school is doing it. Most people, I feel like, have it, but was not required for you to take the vaccine. In a way, it was kind of like how we always treated our flu vaccine before the COVID-19 pandemic. How that actually worked was if you didn't get your flu vaccination, you could not get it for any reason, religious, personal, whatever. You had to wear a mask during the flu season. This was like 2018, 2017, before COVID. So that was just like the consequence of wearing that. Same thing for us here as we go through the COVID-19 pandemic. So you didn't have to be vaccinated, but a vast majority of our staff over at the hospital are. When it comes to like vaccines and all that, there's this thing called the 9 rights to medication administration. It's one of the first things drilled into your head in nursing school. And one of those rights is like right time, right patient. One of the other ones is right to refuse. And it's a thing in healthcare where everybody should have the right to refuse treatment, refuse a medication, refuse a vaccine for any reason that they want. It should be their choice, because you got to respect the individual from a healthcare standpoint for them to be able to choose their healthcare. And I think that by providing a outlet for exemptions to that COVID-19 vaccine requirement here on campus, I think you can still honor that for people, while at the same time having people be vaccinated and keep a safe population here on campus. But in that way, also, you're also respecting the individual choices that individuals can make here on campus. And I think that's a good, again, like I was saying earlier, a good middle ground way to go about it. Make it required, but if you want to have an exemption, okay, you can. And so just seeing how that played out in our hospital with most of everybody getting vaccinated, and just the few people who didn't want to, not choosing not to, I think that we can still get the best of both worlds there and still have a school year with all the events that everybody missed out on this last few years. So
I think that's a very comprehensive outlook on that. So it's a good stopping point for this episode, which is episode number 15. Who knew? We'll have 16 before the new school year starts. So we'll have one more at some point in the summer. By the way, if anyone out there is interested in being a co-host next year, send us a direct message on Instagram at Rockhurst University, and we'll get in touch with you. We're going to open that up more in the coming weeks and have some announcements on social media and stuff for it. But we're already planning next year out. Of course, America and Vince will be guests if they want to be. As yes, you can be Rockhurst University alumni, but you're Rockhurst podcast alumni, and that carries some weight. Thank you for listening to the podcast this week. Thank you for joining us. You can find us again on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts. To watch the discussion, you can watch the Zoomcast on our YouTube page, youtube.com/RockhurstHawk. So for Jarrett, America, and Vince, and Bree, wherever she is, and actually she is coincidentally at her summer job, had to work today, so couldn't join us. This is Chad Schnarr. Have a great week, everyone, and go Hawks.